What is up, friends? Welcome to Live Looping 101. This is where you'll get started with all the looping things. And I'm going to go really super basic and from the beginning of looping. I'm going to do my darndest, and hopefully this will get you started with just some entry-level stuff to get you looping in no time. All right, so our tools that we're using today are Ableton Live and also using the push controller. And so I'm going to show you the first way that I like to loop, and I'm going to show you how to do that using the push controller and other hand controllers. So as you can see here, I'm talking through the microphone and the SM7B. I'm going to switch this to monitor record and then auto here, right? So you can still hear me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you one way to loop with using a controller. So I'm going to show you my controller world here. I've got this controller here, the Ohm RGB. You can use any controller for this, but you can very simply map in Ableton Live. You can map via using MIDI. You can go in and you can map different scenes, the cell from a scene, a clip as it's called, to notes on a controller, as I've done here. So I've mapped these two. And so if I go back into out of MIDI map mode and I click on the first one, you can see that it started recording my voice. So if I click it again and I click on the first one, it's going to loop my voice, right? Because the timeline is stopped, it just started right away. So you can see that's my vocal mic here. And I click on the first one, so when I play it back, you can hear that. So that's just one way to do it. So now I'm going to play the click here. And so when I press this button here, which is the first clip, then it's going to start recording at the top of the next downbeat. Check in the mic, check in the mic, la la, check in the mic, check in the mic, check in the mic, la la, check in the mic. So isn't that just lovely? My little check in the mic vocal there. You know, I do what I can to make it entertaining. Just kidding. Let's go back to live here. And actually, you know, I'm going to turn down my microphone a little bit because you can see that I'm peaking a bit here. So I'm going to go into my console and I'm going to go to this API vision that I have here. I'm going to turn the gain down just slightly on my mic. There we go. All right. So we can see here that I made this clip. And in order to do that, I had to hit this button twice. So I had to hit it once to punch in and then once to punch out. And so in doing that, you know, obviously it works really well if you have your hands free, but sometimes you might need a foot controller. So I'm going to show you that in just a minute as well, but I'm going to show you all the hand stuff first and clip stuff. So with the clip, a benefit of using the clip view here is you can change the tempo and it's going to keep the pitch intact. So let me play my clip here. Check in the mic, check in the mic, la la, check in the mic, check in the mic, check in the mic, La la, checking the mic. So as I brought up the tempo up here in the upper left-hand corner, boom, there it is. As I brought that up, it kept the pitch the same. It started to sound a little wonky, but it still was, pretty good. So I'm going to go back to 70. That's what we had recorded at originally. You can see here, right there. And the zooming in is doing something weird, so I'm going to stop doing that, but you can see the segment BPM. So that's a really nice benefit of recording in a clip, is that you can change the tempo thereafter and it won't change the pitch. So solid, right? So if I go back into live, this second clip here, if we go back into MIDI map mode, which is in the upper right hand corner, you can see that I've already mapped that to another clip. And then what if I wanted to do another one? I could just click on here and then click on here, and then I would just have the 4 different clips. I would be able to record 4 different clips in a row. And so if we're playing this, check in the mic, and I click in the second slot, it's going to take over the first clip. So it's going to stop that one from playing. Check in the mic, check in the mic, la la, check in the mic. I'm playing a new clip now. 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 All right, so I'm just getting a little silly here, but you can see how it took over the first clip, and now we're just hearing the second clip. And so I can do the same thing with a third clip and a fourth clip and so on and so forth. So this is a simple and easy way that you can loop just in the clip slot itself. Now, I do have this pedal thing. I'm going to show you down here. It's the Boss FS5U. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug that into my push. So I've got it plugged in, actually. Accidentally just started the session. All right, we got it plugged in, and here we go. Get the overhead. All right, so with this is really cool because we can use the push and this foot pedal to record. So say your hands aren't free, say you're playing an instrument like me, like I'm playing the violin, so my hands aren't free. So I'm going to use the Boss here for that. Now I'm going to go back into live, and I'm going to delete my lovely clips here. I'm going to recreate this for you using the Boss. So let me just grab that so you can see both at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to this top clip, and I have selected the track with the push. I disengaged it there for a second, which is why you didn't hear me. So I just pressed on that track once more. And if I press play, now I'm going to make sure for a second that my fixed length is off. All right, so press play. And then I'm going to press anywhere in the beat. Check in the mic, check in the mic. La la, check in the mic, check in the mic, check in the mic. So you can see that I punched in and I punched out using the Boss, right? So I had to make sure to let the clip know when to wrap up. Now, if I wanted to, I could just keep recording as long as I wanted and then punch out using the Boss here. Now, another amazing feature, though, of the push is this thing called the fixed length. So if I go to the push and you go here to this button here, it says fix length, and you hold it down. And then you come up to the top left-hand corner, you can say fixed length on, and then you can choose 2 bars, 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars, 32 bars. Well, 1 beat, 2 beats, all the way to 32 bars. So that's a lot of choices. So I'm going to go ahead and choose 2 bars here, and then I'm going to let go. And then if I go back to live here, and I'm going to press play, and I'm going to do my check in the mic again. All right. Check in the mic, check in the mic. La la, check in the mic, check in the mic, check in the mic. So you see that it automatically, I didn't punch out that time. It automatically kept playing after that. So that's another way that you can use, if you have a push, you can get one of these. They're super inexpensive, and you can use it to control with your foot, which is super great. So those are a couple of ways that you can record just in clip view. And again, the reason why I like clip view is for looping is because you can change the tempo and it's not going to change the pitch, which is super magical and awesome. But there are other tools in Live that you can use for looping. So I'm going to show you some of those as well. So let's go back to Live. Back to Live. Go back to Live here, and then I'm gonna get my violin going. So let me show you my setup here. Got my violin right here. All right, so the violin is plugged in via quarter-inch cable to my interface. So let's come into Live and let's look at the looper. All right, so I'm going to check the looper here, and I'm going to bring in a looper on the violin. And there's a couple of different ways that you can go about using this looper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the different features. So first of all, the multi-purpose transport button. This is your best friend when you're looping in Looper. This button does everything. If you click it once, it starts recording. So I'm going to click it once. If you click it again, it switches to overdub mode, and then click it again, it switches to play mode. So basically you can just keep toggling this one button and it switches between overdub, record, overdub, and play, which is awesome. And so with this multi-purpose mode, you can also click it twice to stop, and you can press and hold it down for 2 seconds to undo or redo or clear, which we're going to get to in just a moment. So basically, the main things here that come into play with Looper are you can tell it to record in a variable length number of bars. So again, this is if you want to tell Live how long you want to record your loop. So if you want to be in the moment and improvisational, and you don't want to have to be married to recording at 2 or 4 or 8 bars or something like that, then you can do variable length. So so if I were to press this button here and then record for X bars, I would have to tap out. I would have to punch out and press this button again at the end. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm just going to kind of do like a freewheeling kind of thing here. You'll see that I have it set to start, song, and set and follow song tempo here. So it's going to actually start live when I start recording. I'm going to do this with my mouse right now, which is kind of hard to do a loop, but you will see it. So it's kind of cool. Live now says, well, I think that the BPM that you were playing was 139. Obviously, you know, the very beginning of that was cut off since I had to grab my mouse. But I'll show you in a minute how to do this with a controller or with a foot pedal. But you can see that it recorded and it thought it was eight bars. And so let's turn on the click and see if it makes any sense here. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not terrible. So that's one way you can get it to start the song, and you can get it to set and follow the song tempo. Yeah, so that is there's different features here. So I usually have it on none. I don't have it start the song, and then I just have it follow the song tempo, because I like to tell live what I want to do rather than it trying to figure it out, which you can do. But I just prefer telling the looper, all right, we're recording at 80 BPM and this is when we're starting. So that's just something that I do. So we're going to change that to none and follow song tempo. So for example, if we go, you know, back to 70 here, I'm just going to clear what I recorded. I'm going to grab my violin. So try to be quick on the draw for that one. So now it's in overdub mode, so I can just continue playing and looping here. All right, so you can see there. I'm gonna actually bring up my buffer size a little bit here because I'm getting some pops and clicks. So if you hear that when you're looping, definitely bring up your buffer size. So yeah, so now I've got a couple of different loops going on. And I can toggle between play And I've got a loop going there. And so that is generally what the multi-purpose button does. And so now if I press it twice, it will stop. And if I press it once again, it'll get going. So right now it's following this global quantization here. So right now the global is set to 1 bar, which is at the top left-hand corner here, right there. And so that means that it's going to, punch out and punch in and start right on the downbeats. Now, if I wanted to have this record just for, say, 4 bars instead of a variable length, then I wouldn't have to punch out. So let me try the same thing with that. All right, so if I just want to record 4 bars now, then when I press this record button, it's just going to punch out after 4 bars. So I'm going to just press play. And you know what? I think it's time to map this. So I'm going to go into mini map mode, and I'm going to map this button to this button here. And I'm actually going to delete the other ones up here because we're not using those anymore. All right. So now I'm going to press play. And then if I press this button here, I'll show you this one. It's going to start the looper record. All right, so now I've got this pattern here, and if let's press play again. If I toggle this button here, you can see it changes between overdub and play. So if it's an overdub mode, then I can continue layering on top of it, which is when it's blue. So I'm just toggling back and forth here. And so I can also map the undo and clear. So I'm going to go into mini map mode. I'm going to go into undo and then clear here. So undo is just going to undo the last loop that I recorded. And you can see it changes to redo here. So you can redo it as well if I want to bring it back in. And it just toggles between undo and redo, just the last one. And then if I want to clear everything out, I can do that. And then if I want to bring stuff back, I've made a mistake, I can undo that and then I can press play again. So I just did undo and then play again. and pressing it twice stops it. So very, very cool little device, the looper, the multi-purpose transport button. So I want to show you one thing that is not my favorite thing about the looper. So something to keep in mind if you do use the looper. So going back here, when I press play, if I change the tempo, if I change the tempo up here in the upper left-hand corner while it's playing, it's going to change the pitch. Which can be kind of cool if you want to do like a weird avant-garde transition or something just crazy. But yeah, it's not necessarily what most people want to do. So that's the only thing about the looper that I'm not a super fan of. But you can take the files here, you can drag and drop them to a new track. And in this file is going to be all the loops. So I'm going to just go ahead and clear this one. And we can hear this here. Cool, right? So now I use this a lot for just coming up with ideas if I'm just trying to improvise or, you know, create some new ideas for tracks. Then I often just loop myself and then I drag it into the session and I can play with it later. So going back here, I'm just gonna undo and actually bring back, oops. I'm going to undo the clear here on the looper. And I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the other features. So press play. So one cool thing is the reverse here. So let's go ahead. And so this is also MIDI mappable as well. So you can go to MIDI map mode and click on another button. And so I can just toggle. I just press play. Toggle it here. So another cool feature of the looper. And there's also this input and output. This is ways that you can monitor the looper. So for now, we're going to keep it on always, but this is 101. So when we progress through the looper tutorials that I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to create multiple loopers and all that stuff. But for now, we're just going to keep it on always. All right, so that is the looper. You can also do cool stuff like have the tempo and multiply the length here. So if I press play. It's getting a little crazy, but you can also MIDI map the divide and the multiply. So it's another cool way that you can create some changes within the looper. And so I'm gonna, let's see. So it won't go back to the way that it was, unfortunately. Let's see if I undo. No, it won't go back. So use those at caution. If you have it, it's not gonna go back to the original loop that we had, unfortunately. And then if I undo, yeah, it's not undoing the looper. So that's okay. Something to just consider if you want to go back, then don't use those buttons in the looper because there's no way to go back. Let's see if see if we go. Yeah, undo and redo don't work either. So that's fine. That's a caveat. Another thing about the looper, you can also map these record, overdub, play, stop buttons if you want to just have these natively here and you don't want to use the multi-purpose button. You can have these mapped to your controller. So speaking of controllers, I would love to show you my foot controller. I have a few. I'm just going to show you one right now, and it's called the POC. And it looks like this. And so this is actually like a QWERTY keyboard, but for your foot. And it's Bluetooth, so it's wireless. So I'm going to turn this one on. And then if we go into live and we go into key map mode here, then I can click on this button and I can map. So you can see the letter E pops up, and then I've got undo, and I can do clear as well, and then get out of key map mode, Command K. And so now if I want to record myself, I can use the foot controller. So I'm going to turn on the metronome here and show this view. Clunk. So I'm going to stop it for just a moment. So if I didn't like that last take that I did, I can just undo it with my foot controller here. So press play again. So I can just bring it in and out there. And yeah, so that's a way that you can map a couple things to the foot controller, or if you have just a regular hand controller, you could do that too if you're singing. So there's lots of different options to use with the looper. All right, so next I'm going to show you how to use the arrangement view for looping with a looper, which is super fun because you can plan things out and you can have a lot of fun with the looper. But before I go to the arrangement view, I want to show you a special trick that I have. So let me go to the vocal mic here, and I am going to throw on this sidechain compression preset that I have. So you might have noticed that when I play violin right now, it's going into the microphone. So it's like twice as loud, right? Which is kind of annoying. But as we're going to start building out like more looping stuff, and you're going to start building your looping session out, and you're going to get more tips and tricks. And so this is one way that you can start to minimize your looping through another microphone. So I'm going to just give you a taste here. So I'm going to bring in the compressor with the settings here, and you could totally take a screenshot of the settings here. You notice that the ratio is all the way up. I'm going to bring in the audio input from the violin, And I'm going to turn the monitor in, and I'm just going to take the record out here. So, because when I'm performing in my live session, I just always have the vocal mic on, and it's the monitor set to in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that there. And now when I play violin, I'm going to actually set it from pre-effects as well. More on that soon. So let me show you. So you can see that when I'm talking, the microphone comes back in, but as soon as I start playing violin, you can't hear me talking, which is great for me personally when I'm performing. And those of you that might be playing an instrument as well, next to a microphone, you want to be careful to feed that back into the microphone. So this is a trick that you can use for that. And all right, so now we're going to go on to the arrangement view. So I'm going to just tab over to the arrangement. I'm going to show you some ways that you can set up some looping in the arrangement view. You can do it the same way, the improvisational way that I just showed you, right? And you can be playing along the timeline with your song. So say, for example, we have a song here. And definitely, if you're looking for more advanced looping stuff, definitely check out my Design Your Dream series on YouTube, because I discuss that as well as my controllers and tips and tricks over on my YouTube. But this is for the 101. This is for the folks just starting out. So I'm going to go back to live here and show you. You can do the way the improvisational way, so you're playing along with your song here, and go into record and undo and clear and all that kind of stuff. Or you can automate it. So if I go into the automation mode here and I go to state, then I can automate the state. So say at the beginning of the song, I don't want the looper on. I'm going to take my pencil tool, and then after 4 bars, I want to go in record mode. And then after 4 bars, I want to go into overdub mode. And then I want to go into play mode. And then I want to stop, right? So now I've drawn this curve in, and I'm just going to go ahead and play along here so you can see. I'm going to just speed it up a little bit right here. All right, so you get the point. So one thing that you may have noticed is this button up here, re-enable automation, just turned on. And so that's because I had the record at 4 bars enabled. So if I had it record X bars, variable length, you want it on that when you're doing the automation, because you want to tell it when to do its thing. Now, I would use any of these other lengths if you're not doing automation, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to try again and show you what happens. And definitely want to make sure this orange button is off when you're looping or playing back anything in the arrangement view. And let's go here. right, so that time it did the thing. It did the thing it was supposed to. Notice that when my violin just bumps a little bit, it's my voice is cutting out because that's what that compressor is supposed to do. All right, so going back to live, you can see how you can create. You can have multiple loopers. You can have another track. You can like duplicate this track, and then you can have another looper on this track, and you can get rid of the sound automation, and maybe you have this one turn on like and start recording here and records for a longer time period or whatever. It's up to you and your imagination. You could have just multiple looper tracks just going. And again, you can do it the other way where it's 4 bars, whatever. But this way is super cool as well because it leaves your hands and your feet free because it's just automatically doing the thing, right? So you definitely have to know exactly what you're doing beforehand if you're performing in this way. And I do have a few of my songs that are just already mapped out and pre-programmed out. So yeah, so those are the intro to looping techniques that I have, the 101, and I will be doing a 201 building upon this. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Much love.